Sorry, they changed where record was for
You're
me.
telling me, baby. One, two, three. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the mostess, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
Well, to bastardize the lyrics of the great Lady Gaga,
Please do.
I'm on the edge of illness. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no,
I woke
no,
up this morning with just like one nostril that wasn't here to
no.
play. And then I was like, that's okay. I've been through so many illnesses throughout my life. I know how this works. Today, I'm gonna just feel like not great a little bit all day. Tomorrow, it's gonna be a real shit show. So I'm like, thank God we're recording today because tomorrow it's gonna be a nightmare. Today, within an hour, I was like, oh, I'm unwell. And I was fevered and my hands were so cold. So I was just like using them to like cool my face down. Yeah. So there's going to be probably some sniffles throughout this. And I apologize, but it's just whatever I can do to be here, folks. Yeah, it just makes sense that we're like, we should take a little bit of time off. We didn't have a choice. We were like, we have to take some time off. And I'm like, cool. I'm going to start that time with an illness. And then I'm
Yeah.
going to end the time with a different one.
You know, I gotta say, like, one of the main focuses of my entire being
Yeah.
since before Christmas has simply been not
Don't
to
get
get
sick.
sick.
Yeah.
And I can say, knock wood, I have done it successfully for 3 months, and it has been,
Good for you.
but I'm going to tell you this, a battle,
I bet.
a daily battle. The
I bet.
amount of like vitamins and supplements and
Mm.
hand washing, not that I'm not always washing my hands, but like I got nuts about
Extra.
it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And for 2 months, I masked everywhere I went,
Yeah.
because I was
I
just
get
like,
that.
I can't risk it before I have an international rock and roll tour. I can't do it.
Yeah.
It's coming for me eventually. I know this for sure.
Oh, sure. I think for me the issue is we're so close to spring
Yeah.
that right now it's like one day it's plus 10, the next day it's minus 10. And it's just the back and forth. And bitch here won't wear a coat.
Yeah.
I don't I it's too bulky to wear in the car, so it's in the car in case I need it. But I'm wearing the same level of layers regardless as to the temperature, and I think it's my body just hates it. I'm just so mad because I had so many plans, grand plans for things that were going to happen in the 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm going to
Hmm.
go through this house. I'm going to clear so much stuff out. And the first day I was like, ooh, I don't think I feel great. And then it just went downhill. And then I was fine. And then I was trying to get stuff done. And then I went, ooh, I bit off too much. There's way, like, this is taking way longer than I was thinking. I'm slowly getting through it, but I'm getting there. And then, yeah, I was like, okay, great. Back to work. And then this morning I was like, oh no. But I'm like, it's okay. It's fine. I'll be fine. But by noon I was like, oh lady, you're going down. I had a little I had a little chocolate as like my dessert after lunch because I like a little sweet after a lunch. After every meal. Leave it alone. Even after snacks. It's fine. I hated it. The way the chocolate like coated my throat and the way my throat's feeling, my throat's
Oh,
like, never do that again.
you
So
are
I'm
getting
like, so I'm
sick.
like, I can't even have chocolate? You
Oh,
monster. Oh,
that's
I was
bleak.
angry. I was angry. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And now I have to go buy orange juice because I need to have something. I know I need to keep the fluids, but I'm like, yeah, here we go.
Is the compromise a Terry's chocolate orange?
Oh, I maybe I can never do those typically because
Oh,
I'm
I
like
love them.
never I know a lot of people do and I just I'm like here's where I keep oranges and here's where I keep chocolates. Notice they're like backwards magnets, they just can't go in the same place.
I don't want an orange slice
Mm.
dipped in chocolate.
I've seen
No,
a lot of chocolate fondue that way.
I'm not interested in that.
Sure.
However,
Hmm.
A orange flavored chocolate,
Interesting.
I'm okay with.
Fair. Yeah, look, I mean, there are certain things like, will I eat an orange? Sure. Do I want orange and chocolate? No. Will I eat a banana? Yes. Will I want banana flavoring in literally anything? No.
Mm.
I'm a kook.
No, I think you just like what you like.
I do at this point. And now I'm just like, just let get us through this without a coughing fit or
Yeah.
something so
Yeah.
stupid. And so I'm like, just get through it. Like, it's just so frustrating because I'm like, do I have to get, like, I was just ill. I wasn't that bad, so it wasn't really anything. But this, I'm like, this is already going to feel like it's getting worse.
Hmm.
And we have a brunch coming up.
Yeah, I just realized I have to send out that. Yeah. Over on
Yeah.
patreon.com, folks, we do a monthly live stream where you can come and chat
Yep.
with us. We do murder mystery games. It's a lot of fun. This month I forgot to send out the invite, but you know what? It's always coming. It's always on the
Of
calendar.
course.
It's
You're
always
doing
coming.
great.
Um,
I'm
I've
going to
been
be a
involved in
shell.
international travel.
Yes, and that is what the people are here to hear about. They're
Well,
not here to hear about Sniffles McGraw over here. That sounds like a dog.
I was just gonna say, is she related to Dr. Phil McGraw?
It just sounds like a truffle scenting pig. Like that's what it sounds like. Snuffles McGraw.
I like it. We should add this.
I'd read that children's book.
We should add this to your list of gangster names, um, mob names.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah.
Listen, yeah, what to say, where to begin, how to even encapsulate. I mean, it was the greatest experience of my life. It was
Oh, I
fantastic. And
love
I
that.
think it's interesting because I did it all myself, and which many people have reminded me along the way is insane.
Sure.
Um, and I can attest at this point, it is in fact insane. Um, but
But
God, when you do it and it's successful,
heck
how
yeah.
delicious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good for you. What
Yeah.
a fucking accomplishment.
It really is, it really is. I mean, we Glasgow sold out first very quickly, so we had to upgrade that venue. We were very close to selling out. Um, and I think we would have had I not been competing with little known artist MGK.
Oh, I see.
I was like, that's a
Interesting.
genre conflict too. Like I was
Wild.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like there's some crossover there. Um, anyway. So again, I think we did very well considering Manchester sold out.
Good for you.
Absolute dream. That venue too is so kind of like condensed that it was just wild because it was like there's people on every level. It was kind of like,
Oh,
the
sure.
stage was raised, so there was the main space which was lower, but then in the back there's like a set of stairs kind of like raked. And then there's an overhead balcony to one side, so it's like it just felt like I was completely encapsulated by people, which was
Oh,
unreal.
that's
Unreal.
great.
Yeah. That's where everybody started. I mean, right off the top of that show, people, my first talk break, people just screamed for me. I just started to tear up. I was like, this is one of the most amazing feelings of my life.
Yes.
And then
Oh, I
during
love
walk
this.
away, that was when they all got out their cell phone flashlights, and here I go. Yep. Beautiful.
I love this for you. Good for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
This is a
Uh,
beautiful thing.
yeah. Listen, I'll listen. I'll finish taking you through the routing here, routing. Then we had Birmingham, and that show did very, very well. Again, they were all, if they didn't sell out, they're very close to selling out.
Good for
Um,
you.
and then from there it was London, which also sold out.
Oh,
I mean, again, it's one of those things where like I think it's like I'm trying to think of like a good comparison, but I don't know that I can off the top of my head because I feel like I'm still like swimming in jet lag. Also as somebody who's never flown like across like I was gonna say
sure.
across the sea, overseas, Jesus, Lauren. Um, that jet lag is real.
Oh, I bet.
That jet lag is real. And like the first 4 days, I was so messed up because we flew overnight I had a show in Toronto on Friday, and then we flew overnight on Saturday, landed at like 7, 8 a.m. Sunday, had a few hours to sleep, and then we did a show Sunday night in Glasgow. And when I tell you, I remember it being great. Don't remember any part of the show. Like it's
Mm.
a
Hmm.
absolute blur. My head was not attached to my body. Like it was like seeing through space and time.
Hmm.
And then after that, I was like, surely I'll sleep tonight. No, ma'am. I like got to sleep 4 hours later, eyes shooting awake. Yeah, for the first like 4 or 5 days, the days where I had the shows, those days it was just like
Uh-huh.
could not sleep, heart racing. Like
Yep.
I think just like the adrenaline, the excitement, like everything on top of yeah, the lack of sleep. And then again, it's just like I realized I had been in three different time zones in like 10 days because it was in LA and then I came to Toronto for a few days to rehearse and
Right.
then we flew. So it was like my body was just like, "Where are you? Where are you?" And I'm so tired. Um, yeah,
Oh, Lady Gaga and Blink 182? It's
listen.
a beautiful medley.
Well, I'm in a band. Um, Anyway, and then the yeah, it was just like anyway, so I was so tired in the best possible way. I did eventually acclimatize again after I had the shows, which is funny because I
Of
stayed on
course.
for an extra week to see the sights. But I do have to say, things I didn't anticipate were like people's enthusiasm. Like I knew people were into
Hey,
it, but there's like still I think for as long as I live, as long as I perform music, like people singing along is like the biggest thrill of my life. People that know the words, I'm
yes.
like, I can't even. And by the end, there's a song in the show that hasn't been released yet. And like by the end of that song every night, people are singing along. And then by the end of the tour, I was like, I'm like looking around. I'm like, how do these people know this? Like, and I'm like, is it just from videos online? Like, that's just the coolest thing ever. And I didn't anticipate how um I don't know what the right word would be. The appetite, I guess. I feel like maybe my album's also been out for a little bit more time, so maybe people have had more time with it and know it better. I don't know, but like it was not to say that on my Canadian tour people didn't know the music. They definitely did. But this was
Sure.
just like feeling an entire room sing your song is like
Oh,
nuts.
yes.
And then the other thing I have to shout out is I only put up one video about friendship bracelets,
Yeah.
and people showed up in a way that was unbelievable to the point that one, there was so many and they were so heavy that I had to give them to one of the boys in their suitcase because my suitcase was already overweight. And I was like, I cannot take this like 8 pound bag of bracelets
Of course.
because I mean, I'm tempted to go through and count, although I'm also worried that I'll lose count multiple times and then like counting will be how I spiral into madness. Because I think there might be over 1,000. There are
Oh,
so many. And people, I listen, I've heard the requests on TikTok. People are like, please do a bracelet tour. And I'd love to do that, but it would be 12 hours. Like I'm like, I don't know how to go through all of these. Like I'm gonna have to sort it out when they're back in my possession because this is the
of
other thing. I'm
course.
like, I don't have them because I had to give them to one of my mules, you know what I mean?
Of course. Of course.
Uh and then the other thing I didn't anticipate was how much people would like the merch because I
Hey.
ordered based on a lot of calculations, based on a lot of like, estimations and like literally after Glasgow, after the first show, I was like, I think we have to order more before the end of this 4 day tour, which we did,
What a
which is
beautiful thing.
unbelievable, so credible. And again, I hadn't done that much merch because I had to get it printed there. There's specific rules like you can't bring things in. And I was like, I can't do too many things because then I can't be left with too many things that maybe don't sell or whatever. But
Right?
little did I know that wasn't going to be a problem. Um, anyway, it was just like it's the best. I mean, literally, like we got in the van on the last day on the way to London, and we were all like, "This wasn't long enough." It was like we're just getting started. Like this should be twice as long at
Oh,
least. So I've been bitten by the bug. Listeners in the UK, just know I'm coming back. It's gonna happen. It's gonna
oh,
be bigger. It's gonna be more dates. And then we got to talk about the rest of Europe. Because the other thing I have to give a shout out about
yeah.
is people flew in for
Hey.
these shows. Um, we had quite a few people from Belgium.
Wow.
which is making me realize, guess I got a tour to Belgium. Um, and then the one that blew my mind, there was a mother and daughter duo at the London show who had flown in from Croatia.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I was like, I think that's the farthest.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't point it on a map, but I
You,
guarantee it is.
yeah. I, I couldn't point it on a map, but I'm absolutely certain it is.
I mean, to be fair, I always loved like geography.
You did.
Terrible at it.
Oh,
Terrible at it. Like I've never been good at it, but I always have loved like I want to look at a map. Probably I'd rather just sit and color it. I think I just prefer art.
now I just, yeah, I think did you like geography
Or
or
did
did you
I
just
like
like
coloring?
coloring?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely coloring. I don't
Um,
know. I just felt
that's fair.
fancy knowing, where certain things were, and it just turns out it never stuck. So not fancy.
Yeah,
I also
I get
referred to
that.
myself as Snuffles McGraw, so there goes fancy right out the window.
I don't know. Snuffles McGraw's it's got a ring to it.
Again, I'm already envisioning the adorable little pig with a tiny little, uh, like one of those Sherlock Holmes hats.
Oh, yes.
Does Snuffles have a monocle? I don't know. All
I
signs
think
point to yes.
all signs point to yes. I'm trying to get any sense of where Croatia is. I just looked at like map of Europe.
Yep. Yep.
It's Europe, isn't it? Yes. What else would it be, Lauren?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I could guess the area. I could color in the part of the world where I think it might be. And by that I mean a specific hemisphere, and that's about it.
It's on the other side of Italy.
Oh.
It's far. Yeah, that's far. It's here
Oh shit.
and then
Wow.
England's over here.
Wow.
Impressive.
Yes.
God, am I an idiot? Is
No.
Croatia in Europe? Yes. Okay, I'm not an idiot. I was just like, I love that. I was like, what else would it be? And then I was like, Lauren Ash, do not start making. I can hear the comments already. I can read the Instagram quotes already.
Yeah.
Don't make bold statements.
It's the fact that you were like, "Oh, I'm not sure." So you were like, "I'll check it live in the moment." And then if we find out it's wrong, well, we're not editing that out.
No, but then I can laugh about it. You know what I mean? Then I can be like,
There
what
it
a
is.
boob. I can come for me first. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it does.
Let me
It
come for
does
me
help
before you do.
when we catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And it's keeping me honest if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're like the pop punk Cardi B selling out tours.
That's an honor.
That's what,
Jeez.
because she was selling things out recently, I thought. Like she's I think currently doing a tour,
Yes.
and there were all these dates that were selling out, and there was a date in Ontario that wasn't, and so she was like, "People of Ontario, what are you doing?" Like she was like, "Don't fuck this up for me." Like that's
Oh,
not Cardi B at all, but like you know what I mean.
I liked it. I
I
would
like
never have the balls as the pop punk Cardi B. I would never have the balls to say, "Don't fuck this up for me."
No, and that's the thing I kind of love about her is just her like she's out of fucks. She's living her best life and she's like, this is just who I am. And I love that for her.
Yeah, I do too. Um, Final thing you'd love. What's this
Yeah.
here? Oh, you're like that. Is that just a McDonald's sweet and sour sauce? Sure, it is. But is it from the UK? Yes, it is. Why
Mhm.
do I have this? I'd love to answer that for you. So, I just gotta say, without hyperbole,
Oh boy. Hmm.
UK McDonald's is, in my personal opinion, and listen, I want to preface this by saying, whatever you believe for you, dear people, is your belief,
Hmm.
and that is beautiful. For
Yeah.
me, my reality is that UK McDonald's is far superior to US McDonald's and Canadian McDonald's.
Shit.
And I didn't even get to explore that much of the menu. It's another reason I got to get back there. I got two words for you, baby. How about this? Mozzarella sticks.
No shit.
Yeah. And the
Oh,
biggest thing for me, now again, I didn't stray too much because, you know, I also was like, I can't eat that many McDonald's meals while I'm in this beautiful new place. Um, the McNuggets,
yeah.
a revelation. Thicker,
Oh,
juicier. Honestly, there's just something different about them. They're so good. Fries, here's the joke. I got them and I was like, "Oh, these don't have any salt on them." I don't know whether they don't salt them. You can guide me about this, UK listeners, or what I think it is I think they do salt them, but I think we're just used to so much salt that when you go over
oh.
there, it's like, oh, it doesn't taste like any salt. Um,
These are made of
delicious.
potatoes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you can
Weird.
yeah, you can actually
Um,
taste what they're made of.
and the reason why I have this extra sweet and sour is because of course, when I was getting sauces, I had to try the
Of
garlic mayo, I
course.
believe it is. I had to try the curry sauce.
Yeah.
So who knew that I would have? I typically am not one to have a leftover sauce, but and then the big shout out I have to give
Yeah.
the ice cream. It
Oh.
is so much better, and I will get into a fist fight with anyone who says otherwise.
If you're ever gonna get in a fist fight in your life, it's gonna involve soft serve for sure.
Honestly, I think it is one of my greatest passions,
Yeah.
and yeah, I got it twice in one day. There was my last day there. I got one in the. I was passing by one. I had eaten like a late
Mhm.
breakfast type thing, and I was passing by McDonald's, and I went, "Ooh, a little sweet treat," because they do like a half McFlurry there, like a mini,
Oh,
and they had
okay.
ones with mini eggs, and they had ones with cream eggs for Easter. So I got one, and then later in the day, I was walking from the tube back to my hotel, and I had to pass McDonald's, and I walked towards it, I walked away, I walked towards it, I walked away, I walked towards it. I walked towards it. Like I was
Good
one
for
of those
you.
things where I was like, you
Yep.
don't need to eat ice cream twice in one day. But then I justified it because it was like, well, if I get two of the little ones, that's like I only had ice cream once just in two sittings.
Yes, you were also on vacation.
Yeah, I
You
did
were
keep telling myself
abroad.
that. I was abroad.
Yeah.
Also, I went to a Tesco. They'll love that. I
Oh,
went to a Tesco and which is like a grocery store, and I they have like a wall of little bags of all the chip flavors, and I tried a lot of crisps, a lot of different flavors,
hmm
a
hmm
lot. Didn't meet one I didn't like.
Well,
Worcestershire sauce. I think they call it Worcester sauce there, but delicious.
no kidding.
Yep.
I love this for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a revelation. My favorite sweet treat I had when I was there that someone gave to me was the caramel log. Um,
Okay.
I got these given to me in Scotland,
Beautiful.
a dream. And of course, I got to shout out the deep fried pizza I had.
Oh, that's right.
Revelation. And in case you're wondering, because I was looking for the photo, my favorite of the crisps I tried was the Thai sweet chicken ridge cut McCoys. Those I had many bags of.
I love this for you.
Thank you. It's a
I
treasure trove over there. Treasure trove.
yes, this makes me wanna I have no pull, so I don't know why I'm even saying it, but this makes me want you to get on I believe it's just called Dish, maybe, or The Dish. It's like a podcast. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he has
Oh,
it's a guy and a chef, and they like cook a meal and they talk about it, and then the whole entire thing is talking about food. Speaking of which, Off Menu, which is James A. Caster, and oh no, his name. His name is leaving my brain.
mm.
It's Ed. Oh no, and I'm gonna just try and describe him. Fuck, thank God. I was gonna I was gonna be like, really cute. He was on a season of Taskmaster. He's diabetic. He likes heavy metal music. Ed Gamble. Like,
Oh,
this is horrifying. The point is, I think you'd love I think I think you'd nail a food pod.
Well, absolutely.
Do people call them pods?
I think people call them pods.
I hope so,
We were calling ours the cast for a while, and I
because we were
don't think anybody does that but us.
no, because we were trying to go against everybody else. We were like, let's be different.
Yeah,
Everyone's going that way. We're going this way.
we go this way. They zig, we
Chess,
zag.
checkers.
They're up, we're down.
Yeah, that didn't last.
Didn't last. No, no, no.
That's okay.
Yeah,
You got to try things.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, listen, it was inspiring. It was fun. It was everything I wanted it to be. And I thank everyone who came to the shows. I said this, I think, during every show. It's like I can't live my dream to an empty room. So it's,
Yeah.
everyone who's there has become a part of my dream, whether they like it or not. And I'm very, very grateful. And I cannot wait to come back. It
That's
was
beautiful.
amazing. Yeah, amazing.
I love this for you. What a beautiful
Too.
thing.
I do
Look at
too.
that. You were like, I'm doing this,
Yeah,
whether you think I can or not. And then you fucking did.
yeah, exactly.
Look at you.
Exactly. Um I think that spite is a great motivator, you know?
My husband and I recently had a conversation about it because I can't remember. It was something happened in a movie, and I can't remember what it was. It was like a but actually he was the spiteful one then because there was this movie where I can't even remember the movie, but it was basically um this guy was working to like create something that was going to save the planet. And then the government screwed him over.
Hmm.
I know who saw that coming. And then he gets taken off the project. The world's suddenly in trouble. And this guy's brother is like, you have to come in. Like, the government needs you to come in and do this. And the guy was like, no. And my husband was like, there's not a chance. He's like, I'm letting us all die. And I was like, that's insane. And I was like, I understand spite almost more than anyone, but I'm like, I cannot believe that I'm like, you'd let the entire planet die out of spite because they told you get lost or at least tried to screw you over earlier. He's like, absolutely. And
I
I was just
respect
like,
that.
huh, okay, I get it. But I'm like, spite drives me. So I'm like, I get it, but I have a certain line of spite. Like if someone has crossed me, it's like they're dead to me,
Right.
whatever. But I'm like, the entire planet? I'm like, I'm not gonna let the entire planet die for spite. But he's
Yeah,
just
I don't
like,
know if I could do that either. I think
he's
our
a little too chill about it.
we have a shared sense of like justice though. I mean, we
Yeah.
talk about it on this show all the time. Like again, it's like it's all about the injustice or the lack of justice. Like I think that's big for both of us. So yeah, would I be an absolute dick about it? Yeah.
Mhm.
But I'd be like, well, I guess it's my time to help you now that you've come crawling back.
Oh, my thing was like, they're gonna pay me twice what they want to,
Hmm.
and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
Then I'll be the hero. I'm also gonna need you to tell the world I was right and you tried to screw me over originally. Like that, I'm still there. But he was just like, that's it for him. And I was shocked by it.
Yeah.
But then also a little turned on because I like him spiteful. Because then I'm seeing myself in him.
I get
Isn't that
that.
what you want for a romantic partner is sometimes the ability to see yourself in them? And
Yeah.
he gets spiteful or he uses office supplies and I'm like, hello.
I like that Christy Oxborrow's two biggest turn-ons are spiteful and office supplies.
Yeah, look, I said to him the other day, I saw him writing on a post-it with a Sharpie, and I said, I'm so sorry, but that's really attractive. I'm like, I know that's weird, but I'm like, I never see you use office supplies. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, he's always like in the office at work, so I never see him, but he's usually only using a computer.
Right.
I've seen him use a computer all the time, and I'm so sorry, babe, does nothing for me. But Office supplies? The rustling of paper? The smooth move of
The
a
smooth
Sharpie?
move of a
A Sharpie?
Sharpie.
That like the sound of a Sharpie where it almost sounds like it's cutting the paper because it's making that like little like kind of sound as it's writing. Hello, mister. That's where I'm at. It's a problem.
I love that. But what if you asked me, like, what's your equivalent? I'd be like, well, I don't support it. And I'm not saying that in life I would actually want this, but the
Yeah.
look of somebody smoking a cig.
Just like hanging out.
Oh my God, like James Dean with a cigarette in his mouth. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yes. But again, different types, different strokes, different folks.
Potato, potato.
Yeah, you want someone writing on paper, I want someone rolling paper, you know?
That was expertly done.
Thank you so much.
Expertly done.
The training never goes away, you know?
I like
What
it.
you drinking over there, Sickie?
Well, I have like just the end little bit of a Pepsi slush because we kind of dicked around. So then I'm gonna get into the water, and I'm hoping I'm gonna do this full thing by the time we're done, so that I can be nice and ooh, I almost said lubricated. That's not what I meant.
Yeah, I
We're
know what you
talking
meant.
office supplies. My brain's already somewhere else. Yeah.
Well, I've finished my Gatorade Zero Glacier Cherry, which is my
Oh,
fave.
nice,
I
nice.
also finished an extra Diet Coke. I had an extra Diet
Oh,
Coke today, which I don't normally do. Delicious. And now I'm just onto the water. So it's just a rocking good time on True Crime and Cocktails. True
get
Crime and
that.
Liquids is maybe what we should call it. True Crime and Lubricated. No, we'll work on that. Um, but let's get into the case. We're, of course, talking Real Housewives Mary Cosby on this episode of the show. And let me get you up to speed if you're not familiar right now. Mary Cosby is the wealthy wife of a church bishop living in Utah. She made her TV debut in 2020 as one of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Audiences were immediately taken with her love of fashion and the insults she would use towards her fellow cast members. But fans were shocked when Mary revealed that her husband had originally been married to Mary's own grandmother. And just when you think that Mary's marriage was the biggest scandal here, former members of Mary's church started coming forward claiming that the church was really a cult. On top of that, Mary's church had also been accused of child abuse, misusing church funds, and Mary herself has been accused of having an affair. So, are any of these allegations against Mary and her church true? And can Christy help to decipher the overlapping Cosby family tree? She's sure gonna try.
It's the first one and back in a bit. It just is what it is.
I love it.
Um, you're also gonna love this. I'm going to say, um, and I'm also just gonna basic highlight of it. Um, there's been a recent update in an episode from an episode we did before,
Oh,
and I just want to say it. I had a thing written, but I already am like, it's already too much. The point is, the Duggars.
oh.
The seventh Duggar, aka Joseph, has recently been charged. Now, I love that I'm like, I wrote a thing, and then I'm like, I'm not going to read it, but I'm like, what was he charged with again? Um, oh, that was his brother. There we go. He was arrested on charges of allegedly molesting a 9-year-old girl while on vacation in Florida in
Ugh.
2020. It was the daughter of a family friend that they went on vacation with together. He recently he waived his right to extradition uh, or to an extradition hearing in Arkansas. He's going to be transferred to Florida to face charges for that. Days later, his wife Kendra was arrested on 4 counts of endangering the welfare of a minor and second-degree false imprisonment.
Jesus.
I know the Duggars. I can't even begin. We don't have time to get into them. It's just there's so much. But if you want, check out episode 140,
There
which
you
is
go.
the Duggars themselves, and I just don't know that I expected to see another one of them get arrested. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, those kids, but mostly those boys grew up in a world where it was the women serve the men, the women are not allowed to say no to the man. And so when you grow up in that, you're going to do horrific things later in life and think it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he got arrested.
Oh, yeah.
I said what I said. Ah,
Absolutely.
so as far as today goes, disclaimer, this episode will contain very brief mentions of child abuse, intimate partner violence, and substance abuse. So, trigger warning for those who need it. While researching this episode, I watched the 2026 TLC documentary, The Cult of the Real Housewife. Shout out to Dr. Adina over at familygenie.com for her amazing work digging into Mary's family tree.
I love
It's
that.
it's a lot going in there, and she's done some beautiful work. So, The Real Housewives is a reality show franchise created by Scott Dunlop and produced by Andy Cohen. Andy Cohen described the show as a reality show version of a soap opera. The first series was The Real Housewives of Orange County, which gave a look into the lives of wealthy women in a gated community in Southern California. It first aired in March 2006 and is currently on its 19th season. The amount of
Wild.
seasons of reality TV always surprises me. A second version of the show debuted in 2008, featuring the Real Housewives of New York City. The first international version was the Real Housewives of Athens in 2011. As of this record, there have been nearly 30 different Real Housewives series, including, but not limited to, Atlanta, New Jersey, Beverly Hills, Dallas, Dubai, Sydney, Vancouver, Cheshire, Toronto, and Johannesburg? I don't think you say the J, do you? I don't think it's Joe.
Johannesburg.
I don't think it's
Johannesburg. I'm not sure.
okay. Well, Johannesburg or Johannesburg,
Johannesburg.
however they'd like to hear it. The newest show, The Real Housewives of Rhode Island, is set to premiere literally in 2 days. So they don't stop. Um, And if that's not enough Housewives content, these shows have led to nearly 20 different spin-offs. The most successful, most likely, has to be Vanderpump Rules. So clearly, the Real Housewives franchise has gone beyond reality TV and morphed into a full international phenomenon. Did you know that the housewives have to sign contracts that prevent them from suing each other for anything that might happen during filming? Or that they have to agree to be filmed, even secretly, at all times. So they agree to a certain set of dates, and they're like, well, they might be filming in the bush at 3 a.m. We don't know.
Wow.
You just have to go, yep, I agree. Or that Bravo receives a percentage of the revenue from any business that the women promote while on the show.
Wow.
According to the Nikki Swift website, there is a part of the housewives' contract that states, quote, my appearance, depiction, and portrayal in connection with the series and my actions and the actions of others in connection with the series may be disparaging, defamatory, embarrassing, or an otherwise unfavorable nature, may expose me to public ridicule, humiliation, or condemnation, and may portray me in a false light. And they have to go, okay.
I mean, that makes sense because all of that stuff happens,
Oh,
right?
100%. And with all the women agreeing to it, it's no surprise that there are going to be a lot of scandals attached to the show. Um, and it turns out a lot of the scandals are true as opposed to something just manufactured for content. There have been multiple DUIs connected to the cast, so much fraud, some battery. We do not have time to get into every single case. We also don't have time to fully get into the ones I'm going to mention, but it's just going to be a small, brief sampling of the various um, true crime sort of things connected to some of these housewives. In 2017, Luann de Lesseps from The Real Housewives of New York City was arrested and charged with resisting arrest with violence, battery on a law enforcement officer, and disorderly intoxication. She took a plea which allowed her to avoid jail time in exchange for a stint in rehab and a year of probation. In 2014, Nita, husband of the Real Housewives of Atlanta star Phaedra Parks, was arrested on charges of conspiring to commit mail, wire, and bank fraud in a scheme that spanned over 4 years, included over 50 victims, and caused 2.3 million in losses. Apollo pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 8 years in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. This, of course, would be Apollo's second time in prison. He was sentenced in 2004 to 18 years for his role in a car theft ring. He was released after serving less than 5. Shortly after his release, Apollo and Phaedra got married and went on to have 2 sons in 2010 and 2013. Phaedra and Apollo separated when he went to prison the second time, and eventually divorced. He was released from prison in 2019. Wendy Osefo from Real Housewives of Potomac and her husband Eddie were charged in 2025 with 7 counts of insurance fraud, 8 counts of conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and 1 count of making a false statement to a police officer. The Osefo home was broken into in the spring of 2024, and allegedly Wendy and Eddie claimed that $450,000 worth of designer handbags and jewelry had been stolen. However, receipts came out, and it turns out the couple allegedly returned most of those items to stores and received refunds before that burglary ever happened. The couple has also been accused of using aliases on over 40 different credit cards. Their case is ongoing.
Wow.
From the Real Housewives of New Jersey, Teresa Giudice, or she said, if you want to say it in the more North American as opposed to Italian version, she does also accept Giudice, but Italian, apparently it is Giudice. Teresa and her husband Joe were accused of submitting fraudulent applications and supporting documents to obtain mortgages and loans. When applying for a mortgage in 2001, they claimed Teresa worked as an executive assistant. They even submitted fake W-2 forms and fake pay stubs to try and sell the ruse. In 2005, oh God, got things in my way. There we go. In 2005, they applied for another mortgage, this time falsely claiming that Teresa was a realtor and making $15,000 a month. At the time, she was unemployed. From 2004 to 2008, the couple earned nearly $1 million in income, but did not file any tax returns throughout those years. Teresa and Joe both pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud, 1 count of bankruptcy fraud by false oaths, 1 count of bankruptcy fraud by false declarations, and 1 count of fraud by concealment of assets. Teresa took a plea deal and was sentenced to 15 months. Joe was sentenced to 41 months. Filming for The Real Housewives of New Jersey paused while Teresa was in prison, but never fear, filming started immediately the very day she was released. The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Erica Kane was married to Tom Girardi, a personal injury attorney who in 1993 was part of the legal team which represented hundreds of residents of Hinckley, California in their class action lawsuit against Pacific Gas and Electric. If those details sound familiar, it's because the case went on to inspire the 2000 movie Erin Brockovich.
Wow.
Yeah. To be clear, he was not Erin Brockovich. He was
No.
just there. Erica and Tom divorced in November 2020, and soon after, Tom was accused of embezzling more than $15 million in settlement funds from his clients. In 2024, Tom was found guilty of 4 counts of wire fraud and was later sentenced to 87 months in prison. He also had to pay a fine of $35,000 and pay over $2.3 million in restitution. And speaking of Tom's clients, former clients, I should say, in 2016, a woman named Christina Fulton was severely injured in a car accident. Thanks to the law firm co-founded by Tom Girardi, Christina was granted a settlement totaling more than $924,000. Christina's share was said to be nearly $745,000, but in 2022, Christina sued Tom, claiming instead of Giving Christina her share of the settlement, Tom kept it for himself and transferred some of it to his then wife, Erica Jane. Um, Both Tom and Erica deny that this ever happened. A year later, the case was settled after Christina agreed to take a payment of $15,000. Christina Fulton is a former actress and the mother of Weston Coppola Cage, Nicolas Cage's son.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a good one. That was such a good one.
Look, did I Google Nicolas Cage Real Housewives? And that was the first thing. And I was like, shit, this is beautiful. Yeah,
It's so
yeah, I did.
organic and they just don't see it coming.
Yeah. And he was also married to Christina at the time that they had their Weston. And also, when you look at photos of Weston, you're like, God, it really is his son. Like, there's no need for a
Right.
DNA test. It is wild. Anyway, Jen Shaw, star of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, was arrested in 2021 following accusations of running a nationwide telemarketing scheme for nearly 9 years. She was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud in connection with telemarketing and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Jen eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. She was released in December 2025. The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City premiered in 2020 and was said to have a religious aspect that the other shows did not. Some of the women were Mormon, which is the most predominant religion in Utah, but there were housewives on the show that were Jewish, Islamic, and then there was Mary Cosby, who was the first lady of a Pentecostal church. Not much is known about Mary's childhood. As far as I can tell, she was born Mary Martha Jefferson on October 17th, 1972, to Rosalind Walton and Lamar Jefferson. Not much is known about Lamar, but during an episode of Real Housewives, Mary said her father was from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and she said he lived one street over from Jeffrey Dahmer shortly before Dahmer's arrest in 1991.
Really?
Dahmer, of course, was a serial killer who killed 17 young men and boys between 1978 and 1991. And while Mary's father living near a serial killer seems like a wild story, it has been fact checked. They did find her father did legit live at that address, like very close by, like 2-3 minute walk from
Wow.
where Dahmer was living at the time, which is crazy. So one source claims that Rosalind and Lamar married in 1967. Another claims they married in 1972. I don't know which one is accurate, and honestly, in this case, it doesn't matter. But buckle up because over this, there's going to be a lot of confusion about her family, and we're just going to try and hold hands and get through it as best we can.
Of course.
So, from the best I can tell, Rosalind and Lamar also had a daughter named Denise, and they had sons Quentin, John Mark, and Adrian. Not much is known about these kids, but I did learn that Adrian is a gospel rap artist known as Flex. That's with two X's.
Oh
Um,
boy.
and he released 6 albums between 1995 and 2004. I think
Wow.
now he owns a barber shop, but I think he's still a gospel rap artist.
Thank you for
Again,
using its full term.
there's no chance. I can't just say gospel and I can't just say rap. It's gospel rap
Yeah.
is what it is. Um, so at some point, Rosalind and Lamar divorced, and in 1985, Rosalind married Mark Cazares. Um, but what we really need to be focusing on here is Rosalind's mother, Rosemary Cosby. Everybody who knew her, which of course I did not, referred to her as Mama. I can't. That's too familiar for me, and I'm just no. So I'm just gonna call her by her first name. That feels right. So Rosemary was born April 5th, 1931 in Indianapolis, Indiana, to Thomas and Myrtle Redman. At the time of Rosemary's birth, Myrtle was 24, Thomas was 63. Now, I get it was a different time and age is just a number, but I don't care for it and it creeps me out. No offense. Thomas and Myrtle had 5 children. Rosemary was their third. Now, I don't know exact timelines, but at some point, Rosemary married a man named William Ernest Walton. They had four children together, including William Ernest Jr., Pamela, Deborah, and Rosalind, Mary's mother. At some point, Rosemary and William Sr. divorced. I don't know when exactly. They seemed to be separated by 1961, um, because that's a point where Rosemary went to Utah. Because throughout the 50s, Rosemary was a part-time preacher in Indianapolis. The story goes that in 1960, Rosemary received a message from God telling her to save the West. So in January 1961, Rosemary and her four children set out on foot to walk from Indianapolis to Salt Lake City, which is over 1,500 miles away.
Wow.
Did they really walk that entire way? No. I've heard more than 99% of that journey, they used buses and they hitchhiked and they got rides with people. But Rosemary needed to start that rumor that she walked so it would solidify her place as this devout servant of God. She was so determined to answer God's call, she was willing to walk across the country to make it happen. It just really established the depth of her faith to the public. So when Rosemary first arrives in Utah, it was a predominantly white state where the main religion was Mormon or LDS. Um, Rosemary, of course, was Pentecostal, which is part of Christianity. She was also African American. So it was quite different going in there, but she started conducting sermons in her living room. And she said she just made sure she was as loud as possible in the hopes of catching passersby that might stop in. And it did work. She built up a following. She saved money for several years. And in 1968, she opened her own church, the Faith Temple Pentecostal Church. To help bring money into the church, Rosemary opened various businesses like a salon, restaurants, daycares, and even a mortgage company. So around this time, Rosemary adopted two of her grandchildren. Her daughter Pamela, from the best we can tell, is the mother. It's no one's clear about things in this family. So Pamela, we think, had a son named Demetrius in 1969 and a son named Samuel in 1971. Pamela was unable to care for the boys, so Rosemary took them in when they were both newborns. In the early 70s, Rosemary took a trip back to Indianapolis for what they call the tent meetings, which are basically revivals held in massive tents, mostly by Christians, specifically Methodist or Pentecostal. I don't want to get too deep into religion here. Just to clarify, Pentecostalism is evangelical portion of Christianity. They follow a literal interpretation of the Bible. They believe God pours out his soul for the followers to literally receive into their own bodies. There's also a lot of speaking in tongues. So that's
Gotcha.
just to give you an idea. So at these tent meetings, Rosemary meets Robert Cosby. Now, the frustrating part is there's not a lot of information about Robert. His parents were Thomas and Dolores Cosby. They were married in November 1946. They had two daughters and six sons, including Robert. From the best I can tell, Robert was born in 1953. Now, I don't know exactly when he met Rosemary, but it was sometime between 1970 and 1973 when Robert would have been between 17 and 20. I don't know what their relationship was at the time, but in either 1972 or 73, Robert joined Rosemary in Salt Lake City, and he even moved into her house and was staying in her guest room. In 1975, Robert officially joined Rosemary's congregation, and Robert and Rosemary got married. At the time, Robert was 22, Rosemary 44. Again, not loving the age differences here, especially if it's possible their relationship started years earlier. Shortly after the wedding, Robert adopted Demetrius and Samuel. He also stepped up as a grandfather figure for Rosemary's grandchildren, who referred to him as Gramps. Grandchildren like Mary, who was just 2 at the time of Rosemary and Robert's wedding. That's just a tidbit to remember for later. Um, Robert then started preaching with Rosemary, and he was eventually made bishop in the church, although I'm not sure what training, if any, he may have gone through to get there. In 1982, Rosemary and Robert bought a bigger church and moved Faith Temple to South Richard Street in Salt Lake City. 2 years later, they founded a second church in Indianapolis. In 1985, Rosemary received a Doctor of Divinity degree from the Trinity Hall College and Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. The church had a large following, with Rosemary and Robert leading their flock and Rosemary's daughter, Rosalind, as the church's choir director. But this is something I find confusing. The documentary claimed Rosalind and her mother had a falling out, and Rosemary stepped in to basically raise Rosalind's children, including Mary. But if Rosemary and Rosalind had a falling out, why is Rosalind still such a big key figure at the church? Why wouldn't she have gone to a different church? Why wouldn't she have been like, well, then I'm not directing your choir? I don't know. And while this supposed falling out was happening, there were also issues between Rosemary and Mary. Now, people who knew Mary when she was younger said she liked attention, so she often ran away from home. At one point, Mary allegedly stole her sister's car and was gone with it for weeks. She had to be tracked down just so her sister could get her car back. If you ask Mary, she just borrowed it. No bigs.
Mm.
Her sister Denise said, well, she actually never asked. She just took it. People also described Mary as materialistic, greedy, and a bit of a troublemaker. Mary's behavior became such a problem that Rosemary disfellowshipped Mary from the church, which basically is a way of pushing someone out of the church and telling them they have to go work on themselves and they can't come back until they have found their way back to God. But Mary didn't get a chance to get back in her grandmother's good graces because in January 1997, Rosemary Cosby passed away at the age of 65. Rosalind was devastated over the death of her mother and pledged to continue Rosemary's legacy at the church, as Rosalind had previously been a pastor there and was currently their minister of music. At the time, Faith Temple had an estimated 500 people in their congregation. But Rosemary's husband, Robert, had a different plan, believing he should be the one to continue running the church. He'd been running it by Rosemary's side since the day they opened. But a few months into Robert's leadership, the congregation said things severely changed. Under Rosemary, the church was about love, support, unity, and connecting to God. Under Robert, suddenly it was, if you don't do what I say, you'll go to hell.
Oh,
Real, real change of attitude there, you know?
yeah.
And while Robert was making questionable changes at the church, he then made an incredibly questionable change in his love life. In September 1998, 20 months after Rosemary's death, Robert and Mary were wed. At the time, Mary was 25, Robert 45. And yeah, for those trying to follow along with this family tree, Robert married his step granddaughter. They weren't related by blood, but Robert had been acting as Mary's grandfather from the time that Mary was just 2 years old. It's
Ugh.
fucking creepy. I don't care what you say. It's creepy as hell. I said it. I apologize in advance for how crass this is about to be. I get the whole to each their own. But the second you put your dick in any of my relatives, especially my grandma, you're never parking in my garage ever, if you get me. The idea of marrying a man who used to be married to my grandmother is a level I cannot wrap my brain around. I can't.
No.
I get they weren't blood relatives, but it doesn't matter.
But it's one of those things where it's like I think there's many families out there that have step parents or
Yep.
adopted children, and if you were to suggest that those aren't their real parents or aren't their real children, it's very offensive, right? Like family is
Yep.
not only blood, and I think that when you have been an active part of a child's life from the time she's 2 as her grandfather,
Yep.
and then 20 years later you marry her, it's twisted. It just is.
It's
Like
fucking weird.
it's just weird.
It's so weird. Ah, Mary claims that Rosemary wanted the marriage to happen, and it was basically in her will. She didn't have a will, to be clear. You also can't put in your will, my granddaughter has to marry my husband. Like, that's not a thing. But anyway, um, Mary says that since Robert was 20 years younger than Rosemary during their marriage, Rosemary felt she had robbed Robert of his youth, and she wanted him to, quote, marry one of her girls because she knew her granddaughters would treat him well.
Oh
What I'm hearing,
God.
yeah, what I'm hearing, since I stole his youth, he should be allowed to steal yours.
Great point.
You know? Also, there's absolutely no evidence that Rosemary wanted that marriage to happen at all. It's all just what Robert and Mary say.
That's another good point. These are not necessarily reliable narrators. Like, like it's very easy to be like, that this is what grandma wanted.
100%, especially after the woman has died and can't, like, unless we're gonna Ouija board this and be like, pardon me, how do you feel about this?
Yeah.
Which was rude, and I apologize for that. But there's not a chance this woman was like, please marry one of my granddaughters,
Well, and yeah, listen, we don't know. And even if she was, you don't have to do it.
right? It's
Yes.
just to me, if she did ever suggest it, it's a wild ask. It's
Yeah. I
it's a
guess I would
wild
also
ask.
ask like where was she in terms of like how old was she? Where was she in terms of like her connection to reality and a
Oh,
firm
sure.
grip on the world? Now, also we've heard about lots of other religious cults and situations where this would probably be normal. So
That
it's
is
hard to
true.
say. It's
I
very
just
hard to say.
don't believe for a second that she knew it was ever going to happen or that she wanted it to happen, but
It's
who knows?
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and to make things worse for everyone, Mary's mother, Rosalind, was fully against it. In April 1998, 15 months after Rosemary's death, Robert announced during a church service that he and Mary were planning to wed. Rosalind stood up and said no. She said the devil was trying to break up the church. Things got so heated. The police were called. Rosalind ended up walking out of the church that day, and she took half the congregation with her.
Whoa.
Mary later said her estrangement from her mother was simply because Rosalind was jealous of the inheritance that Rosemary left for Mary, i.e., the church. And honestly, since Rosalind had experience and fully believed in Rosemary's vision and faith, I guarantee Rosalind did want the church herself. She stated publicly that she wanted to continue her mother's legacy, but I get the feeling that Robert wasn't willing to share. And since Rosemary put Robert in a position of power, it wasn't easy for Rosalind to get him out. But I have a lot of questions about Mary's estrangement from her mother. She claims her mother essentially abandoned her and she was raised by her grandmother. But if that's true, why is she now claiming the estrangement happened because of what happened after Rosemary died?
Mm,
So it doesn't make sense. Um, I'm only speculating here, but it seems like Mary saw the power that her grandmother had over her congregation and the success that Mary had in her various businesses, and she wanted a piece of the pie. Robert also would benefit from marrying a woman half his age, and because it would immediately legally tie him to Rosemary's church and the businesses that she was making that were was bringing in money.
right.
Robert said he wanted to help revive Mary's spirituality. So shortly after Rosemary died, Robert moved Mary into his house, which again, sketchy. He claimed that Mary helped him heal from his grief. He then bought her a brand new BMW.
This is feeling very groomer to me.
Yep. When the congregation started to question Robert and Mary being together, Robert claimed God had personally told him to marry her. He then told him, if you trust God, trust me, which to me, an untrained professional, sounds like a grifter trying to take advantage of people's beliefs, allegedly.
Yeah.
The problem is when Robert first told the congregation that he and Mary were getting married, Mary was already married. Again,
Oh,
they announced the marriage, their intent to marry in like the spring and didn't marry till the fall. She was married the whole time. In February 1993, Mary wed a man named Dana Harris. They were 20 and 21, respectively. They were still married when Rosemary passed away. Why would Rosemary tell her husband to marry her granddaughter if the granddaughter was already married? Because that would mean that Mary has to get a divorce. And according to the members of the church, Faith Temple was allegedly against divorce.
interesting.
But that rule feels weird to me because Rosemary herself was previously divorced. When she took the kids to Utah in 1961, her husband stayed behind, so clearly they were apart at that point. On her husband's death certificate, that's where I went, in 1974, he was listed as divorced. I guess there's a world in which he married and divorced after his relationship with Rosemary. Maybe him and Rosemary never legally married, but a religious woman at that time in history, it seems unlikely they wouldn't have been married when they were having children. Do you have
Yeah.
to be married when you're having children? No, but in like the 40s, as someone deeply religious, I just
Yeah.
feel you're probably going to. Um, But if they had, it just seems weird Rosemary would say her church is against divorce, especially if we're supposed to believe Rosemary wanted Robert and Mary to be together. But maybe the no divorce rule was simply a do as I say, not as I do sort of thing for the congregation. Or maybe both Mary and Robert saw the financial benefits of getting married and they agreed to it and are covering their tracks by claiming it's what Rosemary would have wanted, because there's no way to prove otherwise. But even with Rosemary's blessing, marrying your step grandfather is a wild choice. On Real Housewives, Mary claimed she didn't want to go through with it. She said, quote, I didn't want to. That's weird to me. But my grandmother really did want me to, so I obeyed her. I trusted her every word. She wanted me to take her place. Well, if that's true, then why did your grandmother disfellowship you from the church years earlier? It just feels like Mary knows that marrying Robert was a crazy choice, and she is simply trying to justify it by saying, well, my grandmother approved,
Mm.
even though no one can prove it. On the show, Mary said it took them 2 years to actually get married. She said, quote, I had to be certain. I started to pray myself. I started to seek high help myself. When I did that, I felt peace with it. So I married him. I chose what the man upstairs told me to do. But something's up because saying they waited 2 years to get married, um, well, she's either lying about that or they were planning on getting married when Rosemary was still alive. Because Rosemary passed away suddenly. Nobody saw it coming. It was just kind of out of nowhere in her sleep in January 1977, when Mary was still disfellowshipped from the church, meaning she's been kicked out. She's not a part of it anymore. In April 1998, Robert and Mary announce to the Faith Temple they're engaged, even though Mary was legally married to someone else. So it did not take long for that to happen. They married less than 2 years after Rosemary died. So to say we waited 2 years, as though that's a big chunk of time for or enough time for us to forget that he was your grandfather. Doesn't matter. So Mary's first husband, Dana, he was a loyal member of the Faith Temple and had been up to that point for his entire life. During a meeting in front of the entire congregation, Robert said that Mary's previous behavioral problems and struggles with the church were Dana's fault because he had tried to lead her astray because Dana didn't want Mary to be close to God. Well, that made the congregation turn on Dana, and suddenly they're chastising him and pushing him out. The day after this happened, people showed up at Dana's house with divorce papers and forced him to sign it. The papers were signed September 8th, 1998. 19 days later, Mary and Robert got married.
Whoa.
In 2002, Mary gave birth to the couple's son, Robert Cosby Jr. Years later, Mary called her marriage beautiful. But then on an episode of Real Housewives in October 2021, she described it as exhausting, saying she wished her husband was passionate, apologetic, and, quote, just alive.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. She said she feared the day their son moved out and they were stuck alone. She said, quote, our whole marriage is based on this kid, so it's almost like I have to relearn this man from knowing what I know now. I don't want to get to know him. I just see a disaster.
Wow.
Now, before we get too far from the topic of marriage, I want to talk about some of the other interesting relationships in the Cosby family. And no, there is no relation to the actor and accused predator Bill Cosby. That would make this episode considerably longer and much darker in tone.
And for the record, he was convicted, so I think we
You're
can
right.
say convicted predator. How about that?
Convicted predator. There we go. That's better. So, as I mentioned earlier, Rosemary adopted her grandsons Demetrius and Samuel when they were both infants, and Robert adopted them after marrying Rosemary. Mary started out as Demetrius and Samuel's first cousin, but by marrying Robert, she then also became their stepmother.
Right.
And at least Demetrius was like 3 years older than Mary.
Oh wow.
So there's also that. I like she didn't have to raise them, but that's still. And speaking of Samuel Cosby, from the best we can tell, his biological mother was Pamela, who was Rosemary's daughter and Rosalind's sister. So Samuel was Rosalind's nephew, and then Rosemary adopted him, making him Rosalind's adopted brother.
Right.
Then in 1990, Samuel married Mia Cazares, the younger sister of Mark Cazares, the man who married Rosalind in 1985. So then Samuel is somehow Rosalind's nephew, brother, and brother-in-law.
That's wild.
It's too much. Go outside. There might be somebody else from a different family. I don't know. It's just too much for me. Here we
It's
go
like
with
the Royals. It's just all
it's a lot. And then this is just one more. One more, two more kind of. Rosemary and Robert married in 1975. In 1981, Rosemary's daughter Deborah married David Cosby, Robert's brother. In 1988, Rosemary's daughter Pamela married Daryl Cosby, Robert's other brother. So, in the span of 7 years, two of Rosemary's daughters married two of Robert's brothers. So, they started out as uncles by marriage and ended up as brothers in law.
Mm.
It just goes to show how small of a social circle was actually
Yeah.
happening within Faith Temple.
Yeah,
And
for
if you're
real.
like, none of these make sense, I'm so confused by it, don't worry, they don't matter in this story. Once I know about it, we've got to hear about it.
Oh, for
So
sure.
we have to go back just briefly. I mentioned when Robert and Mary announced their intention to marry, Rosalind was against it. And it's mostly because she did not trust Robert. When Rosemary died, Rosalind was made the executor of her estate. A month later, Robert filed an application to appoint himself as the personal representative for Rosemary's estate, claiming he had a document signed by each of Rosemary's biological children. However, Rosalind said she didn't sign anything, so she accused Robert of forging her signature. They went to court in January 2001. It was determined the deed to Rosemary's house had been transferred to Robert and was signed by all of four of Rosemary's biological children. Again, Rosalind did not sign that. It was dated December 1996, less than a month before Rosemary's death. It was also notarized by a woman named Patricia Tunson. In court, Patricia admitted Rosemary was not even in the state when that document was signed. They were talking to her about it over the phone. Patricia said Rosemary told her notarize the document anyway. It's okay. She'd sign it later. She accepted it. Because according to Patricia, Rosemary thought the document was to help lower the interest rate of a loan she was going to get. The truth is, the document was transferring the deed for Rosemary's house to Robert. But then someone in court realized that something about the stamp that was used to notarize it, that type of stamp wasn't issued until January 20th, 1997, 2 weeks after Rosemary died. So it wouldn't have been available to notarize a document when Rosemary was still alive.
Oh boy.
Um, and then it comes out, yeah, Rosalind's signature had been forged. Um, I have no idea what the outcome of that case was. Even though they found out it was forgery, they found out the notary wasn't right. Somehow Robert was still left in charge of the house.
That's interesting.
I don't love it. So Rosalind then accused Robert of trying to steal Rosemary's estate from her and her siblings. Robert claimed the estate had little or no value, which is interesting since the estate included Rosemary's various businesses, which, according to Mary, were how she and Robert became millionaires in the first place.
Mm,
Rosalind also fought in court for years to get Rosemary's body exhumed because Robert had refused an autopsy, and Rosalind believed her mother's death wasn't natural. Rosemary's body was exhumed in 1999. An autopsy determined they believe it was heart failure, so they listed her as natural causes. After they were married, Robert made Mary the choir director, which was kind of his way of just slowly giving her a little bit more of power because, again, he took over after Rosemary died. And at the time Rosemary died, Mary wasn't part of the church anymore. So he had to kind of like slowly bring her in, and he did so through the choir. Um, but then soon, Mary starts giving sermons despite not having any training. Um, and then with the two of them in charge, things are changing drastically. That's when he starts getting into, oh, now you're going to hell for everything, that kind of attitude. If a member went against anything that Robert and Mary said, they said, you're going to hell. That might not bother most people. But for others, the fear of that alone is enough to make them just do whatever they're told. Faith temples started to become more isolated as members were forbidden from speaking to Rosalind or anyone who had left with her. Cameras were installed at the church, and if Mary couldn't be there that day, she'd watch the tape and then she would personally call people to say, I saw you at church and I didn't like something you did.
oh my God.
Confessions at Faith Temple were also changed from the traditional, like, private moment between a church member and a religious leader to members being told they had to write their confession in a letter that was then read in front of the entire congregation.
Oh.
Members then started shaming each other, which drove wedges between family members, and eventually many of the congregation just outright stopped speaking with one another. So then you're further isolating everybody. Congregation members said they were expected to work for Robert and Mary for free, including working as their housekeepers, assistants, and running their errands. Robert and Mary told them it is an honor to be chosen for such work because it is an honor to personally assist God. Because, yes, the congregation was told God spoke through Mary, so therefore they were supposed to treat her as though she was God. And if they didn't listen to her, they were going to hell. And while that feels extreme, it's a way for Mary and Robert to gain control over their congregation, which is also something that is often seen in cults. So is Faith Temple a cult? I mean, to figure that out, we have to look at the signs of a cult. I found a great article on psychwire.com written by Dr. Alexandra Stein, a social psychologist who specializes in ideological extremism and dangerous social relationships, including cults and extremist groups. According to Dr. Stein, some of the key signs of a cult include isolating members from the outside world, controlling relationships within the cult, and shunning those who leave. We've already heard of them doing all three.
Yep.
She stated a cult is controlled by a charismatic, authoritarian leader who uses brainwashing and coercive persuasion to isolate, control, and exploit their followers. Dr. Stein also states that cult leaders are driven by the need to control others and to control their environment to gain fringe benefits such as free labor, money, and sex. We've heard so many examples of Mary and Robert using the church to isolate current and former members. But what about the three fringe benefits, or main benefits, I should say? Well, I've already talked about them getting free labor, getting their congregation to do things for them, saying that they should be honored to be personally assisting God, even though Mary Cosby is not God. Regardless as to what messages she claims to receive, she's human. Specifically, a human taking advantage of her congregation's beliefs to be able to gain control. Allegedly. One of the devoted congregation members was Patricia Tunson. She worked as Mary and Robert's housekeeper for years without being paid. Patricia's sister Susie was concerned that Patricia was going to work herself to death, and Patricia passed away in 2024 from natural causes at the age of 81. Yeah, they had an 81-year-old woman at their house, like, every day, like, cooking and cleaning and doing everything for them without paying her. Also, Patricia was seen in the TLC documentary, but something that wasn't mentioned in that documentary is in the late 90s, Patricia was a notary, namely the one that Robert used to forge those documents,
No.
allowing him to gain control of Rosemary's house. So I guess he's just been taking advantage of Patricia for years.
Wow.
Decades. Yeah. And not just Patricia, because the church also got to her siblings. Patricia's brother Don continuously gave money to Faith Temple to the point he nearly bankrupted himself. Don and Patricia's sister Susie told Don outright, "Stop giving the church so much money. You have to live." The church found out about it. They kicked Susie out, and they told the congregation they were no longer allowed to speak with her. Susie said it was incredibly painful to be completely removed from a church that had been such a big part of her life for most of her life. And then when Patricia died, Susie was barred from attending the funeral. The second benefit that cults get from controlling members is money. Well, according to former members of Faith Temple, Robert and Mary would shame people if they didn't donate enough to the church. In churches, there are things called tithes. They are donations that members make to the church. Typically, it's 10% of your personal income. According to the internet, because I've never read the Bible says paying a tithe is an obligation, but there's a thing called an offering, which is above and beyond the obligated amount you're supposed to give. Well, allegedly, Mary and Robert not only demanded tithes every 6 months, they continually asked for more. They would hold what they called emergency saints meetings after church services, where Robert would instruct the ushers to stand at the exits to prevent people from leaving before they gave an offering. Robert and Mary would allegedly say things like, "So here's the deal. We need like $100,000 to fix the roof." And then they would wait and no one's going anywhere until we get that money.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
once they get that money, weird. No one ever saw anyone working on the roof. It was said that Mary and Robert would pressure the congregation to give more than what they had. People were pushed to cash in 401ks. Some even lost homes to be able to donate money to the church after Mary and Robert allegedly shamed them for not donating enough. On Real Housewives, Mary said that church is a rescue and a place where love should always flow. Well, according to former members of the congregation, that love only extended to people who continually donated money. According to both current and former members, Mary and Robert publicly berated the people they felt didn't give enough. One member even recorded audio from the church and then leaked it online. In that audio, Mary can be heard screaming at the congregation because she felt they didn't give her good enough birthday presents.
Oh my God.
She called them poor and stingy. She pouted and said, quote, "I only got 14 birthday cards." Then she said, quote, "I don't want no poor people around me. You're poor as hell."
Wow.
Shaming people for not giving you birthday presents is wild. She's a grown ass woman who is reportedly worth around $5 million. She can buy her own fucking presents. It is so greedy and entitled to complain that you didn't get enough. It also seems to me, a non professional, that Mary has a real issue with the word poor.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate insult, I think, to her. On an early episode of Real Housewives, Mary commented in her youth, she said, "We didn't have enough." Another housewife was trying to be like, "Oh my God, same." And she said, "Oh yeah, I also grew up poor." And Mary quickly said, "I never said I was poor."
Wow.
There's something about that word to her. Um, I think for her, she thinks the amount of money you have determines your self-worth. To be clear, it does not. Um, but in the documentary, someone summed it up beautifully by saying, quote, "Mary's kink is money." I burst out. I was like, wow, well said. It was suggested she only agreed to marry Robert after he gave her a brand new BMW. When Real Housewives of Salt Lake City started airing, the congregation was shocked at just how much money Mary and Robert had, including Mary's full designer wardrobe. They also had houses in Salt Lake City, Vegas, Orlando, New York, and Carmel, Indiana. I don't know why those specific places, but people started to question if Robert and Mary were using the money from the church for themselves.
Ugh. You
Mary did
think?
not, right? Well, Mary denied the allegations on a Housewives reunion, saying, quote, "My church couldn't possibly take care of me." As though they don't give enough money to support me, as though she's not forcing people to, you know, remortgage their houses. She said she inherited wealth and several businesses from her grandmother, Rosemary, which is funny because at the time of Rosemary's death, Robert said it what Rosemary had wasn't worth anything.
Mm.
Sounds like someone's lying.
Yep.
But the businesses I mean, they're still going. There's a radio station, a flower shop, a mortgage company, a restaurant, a daycare, a salon, a music store, and a real estate firm. So, a lot of businesses in a variety of fields. So, I'm sure she's making good money there. But it's sketchy to push your congregation so hard to give you money and then not have any proof that it's actually going into funding the church. The church was closed down for 2 years for what Mary claimed were renovations. However, when it opened back up, people said it didn't seem like anything had changed. Does that mean the money wasn't properly used? I can't say for sure. I can only say suspicious as hell.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Alexandra Stein said cult leaders use isolation and control to get power, especially free labor, money, and sex. We've heard Mary and Robert using both isolation and control to get free labor and money. Now it's time to talk about sex. Shout out Salt and Pepper. I almost went into the whole. I
Let's
was,
talk about sex, baby.
yeah, I was going to write it down in my notes and read several lines. And then I was like, Christy, sometimes you have to stop. And
Not for
that's
me.
somehow that's where I chose to stop myself. So it's also difficult to keep saying TLC in the same episode where you're going to say salt and pepper and
Yeah.
not, want to talk about chasing waterfalls. Oh God, now I'm thinking no scrubs. It doesn't matter anyway. So Dan Cosby is Mary's first cousin and a member of Faith Temple. Dan accused Robert of exploiting the church members' faith to enforce obedience and loyalty. It led to Robert shoving Dan during a public prayer meeting. So Dan was married to a woman named Kim. Well, Robert and Mary took a shine to Kim. So they invited her with them on a trip to California. Kim said it was a great time. She'd never seen anything quite like that. She was really into it. Well, when they get home, Mary accused Kim of trying to steal her life, saying that she was jealous of Mary, and jealousy is a trait of Satan. Yeah, really extreme. Robert then requested private meetings with Kim, both at the church and at his home. During one of those meetings, Kim says Robert suggested that he and Kim go to Vegas together. Kim said no. Robert got angry. He then asked if Kim loved him. She said, well, as my pastor, I love you. Robert then accused Kim of being in love with him to manipulate her into thinking she'd done something wrong when she hadn't. He then, of course, used the whole like, you're in love with me? Well, that's wrong because you're married. So then it was like, well, now we have to have even more private meetings, just the two of us,
Oh,
to work on this
God.
because you're in love with me. Robert then continually harassed Kim, forcing her to take meetings with him. Um, if she was a true believer, she would do the meetings. And she was a true believer. So she's like, I'll do whatever I need to do. Um, on one hand, I want to know what happened in those meetings. And on the other hand, I don't. I can, we can all make assumptions on what may have
Yeah.
happened, but we're letting it go. Um, Kim said she would try and come up with excuses to be able to leave those meetings, but Robert always had a reason why she shouldn't. One example, she would say she has to go home and make dinner for Dan, and then Robert would get angry and say she was putting her husband above God, and that was shameful.
Oh, my God.
Things got so bad that Kim and Dan separated, but from the best I can tell, they are currently back together. But clearly, Robert was interested in something more with Kim, and when she turned him down, he got angry and tried to make her feel guilty by using her faith against her. Because, as we have often seen on this show, men in positions of power get angry when they are rejected and typically respond by trying to harm the woman, either mentally or physically. Not always, obviously, but on this show, it comes up a lot.
It does.
Also, other women have since come forward to say that Robert was doing that same thing to them. And some may say, where was Mary when all of this was going on? Well, she was allegedly having an affair. Cameron Williams was a member of the Faith Temple congregation. He pushed so hard, or he was pushed rather, so hard to donate, he ended up getting a second mortgage on his house and donating upwards of $300,000. Soon, he caught Mary's eye. She would invite herself over to his house, inappropriate, and one night she just started touching him inappropriately and then would use his hands to touch herself inappropriately. They did end up having sex at least once, from what I've heard. Um, Cameron said he only went along with it because he was told if you go against Mary and Robert, you damn yourself to hell. After seeking out therapy, Cameron was finally able to see he was being manipulated, so he left the church. Before Real Housewives Salt Lake City was fully cast, the show reached out to Cameron to see if he knew anyone suitable for the show, because apparently Cameron was friends with Lisa Barlow, who was already cast on the show. Well, when Mary heard Cameron had been contacted, she begged him to get her on the show. So he did. He later said he only got Mary on the show because he hoped it would expose her for the fraud that he truly believed she was.
Mm.
Cameron appeared on 4 episodes of Real Housewives where he can be heard telling other cast members to be careful when dealing with Mary. She's not what she seems. Shortly after filming, Cameron passed away in June 2021 from complications following a surgery to remove a brain tumor. He
Oh.
was just 33.
Oh.
While news of his affair with Mary wasn't exactly public, Cameron had told multiple people, including Mary's cousin Dan. After Cameron's death, Robert and Mary allegedly told the congregation that Cameron died because he lied about Mary and the church.
Oh my God.
Again, not exactly the loving or compassionate attitude that you would typically expect from a pastor.
Ugh.
And speaking of lacking love and compassion, former church members also claim that Robert and the church elders were physically abusive with some of the young boys in the congregation back when Rosemary was still in charge. They said Robert created a group called Brotherhood, where all the young boys were sent once a week to learn to be men.
No.
It allegedly started with workouts like push ups and running laps around the church. I don't know how that helps. Um, but it quickly escalated to military style boot camp, which featured corporal punishment like kneeling on a bed of nails or being forced to watch other children be beaten in front of you. The main rule of Brotherhood, not unlike Fight Club, you can't tell anybody about it. This was you especially can't tell Rosemary. Well, thankfully, one kid did tell Rosemary, and she shut that shit down immediately. The documentary really made Rosemary out to be like a hero and a saint, and I'm not suggesting otherwise. What I didn't like was the documentary briefly mentioned Rosemary's relationship with Robert and then quickly moved on as though it was nothing to focus on. They first met when Rosemary was in her 40s and Robert was a teenager. And while we don't know the extent of that relationship, when he was only 19, he moved 1,500 miles away from home to live with Rosemary. Again, we don't know what was going on, but 2 to 3 years later, Rosemary and Robert got married. So either Rosemary was grooming Robert or Robert was manipulating and taking advantage of Rosemary. Am I cynical for not believing they just simply fell in love? Sure. I just find it hard to believe that they were so deeply in love, but as soon as she died, he immediately tried to gain possession of her house and then started looking for a new wife. But isn't it interesting? He moved in with Rosemary when she was in her early 40s and he was 19. And then shortly after she died, Robert was in his early 40s. He convinced Mary, who was in her early 20s, to move in with him. It's like a never-ending cycle of potential abuse.
Yeah.
Which, just like everything else this church seems to do, comes back to trying to be the one to gain power. The Daily Beast released an article in 2021 accusing Faith Temple of being a cult. I've already pointed out all the ways that Faith Temple takes advantage of their members. I'm sure there are more. Do these reasons prove that the church is a cult? In my opinion, yes, but I might be biased because I'm not one with organized religion. But to me, to tell someone they have to give you all their money or they'll go to hell, and then ask them to cook, clean, and do your laundry for free because it's an honor to even be asked, while claiming that you yourself are God, is extremely and absolutely cult like. Mary denied the cult allegations, but to avoid further questions about it and likely questions about Cameron, she skipped the reunion show at the end of season 2 of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Mary was noticeably absent from season 3, but then she came back to the show in season 4 in a small role and then returned full time to the show for season 5. When she returned, she was suddenly super supportive and overly concerned with whatever the other housewives were going through. It was like she was trying to change her image and distract people from the potentially occult leader allegations. And honestly, it worked because so many Housewives fans praised Mary's new attitude and welcomed her back to the show with open arms. It's like the allegations have been forgotten entirely. Now, before I wrap this up, I have updates on Mary and her family. In January 2025, Mary's mother, Rosalind Cazares, passed away at the age of 75. I believe one of Mary's quotes was, it was like a relief.
Oh, God.
Because again, to her, her mother was jealous of her
Right.
because her grandmother left it all to her, even though there was no official will. So, anyway, in 2021, Mary was charged with 2 misdemeanors, including harboring a minor and providing shelter for a runaway after Robert Jr.'s girlfriend, her son, who was a teenager at the time, spent the night at Mary's house without her parents' permission. Mary pleaded not guilty. The charges were eventually dismissed. From the best I can tell, during that incident, Robert Jr. was like 18, 19 at the time. His girlfriend was like 16, 17. In 2022, Robert Jr. and his girlfriend secretly got married. They managed to keep it a secret for a full year, even though they were living with his parents at the time.
Oh, my God.
It came out on an episode of the show.
Oh, of course.
And she was like, I can't believe, like, of course they're going to wait for that moment. But yeah, she apparently did not know. Around this time, Robert Jr. spoke openly on Real Housewives about his struggles with addiction, which led to a month-long rehab visit in December 2024. Soon after, his marriage dissolved following an alleged assault. In September 2025, Robert Jr. was arrested for criminal trespassing, assault, failure to stop at the command of law enforcement, and 3 counts of violating a court order. 2 months later, he was arrested for violating a pretrial protective order after visiting the home of his now ex-wife. Robert Jr. pleaded guilty to 8 charges. 6 other charges were dismissed. He was sentenced to 2 months in jail, followed by 3 years probation and some community service. Robert Jr. was released February 3rd, 2026. 2 days later, he was charged with felony aggravated assault and felony assault following the incident with his wife in early 2025. Just over 2 weeks later, Robert Jr. died of a possible overdose.
Oh, my God.
He was just 23 years old.
Oh, my God.
Mary has since publicly stated that her husband, Robert Sr., has been her rock since their son passed away. And while it is tragic to see the loss of such a young life, and I'm not saying anything other than that, I do hope that that tragedy reminds Mary of how she reacted when a young member of her congregation was killed in a car accident. Michael Enoch was 24 when she was thrown from her vehicle in February 2021. And even though Michael and her father were members of Faith Temple and had been for years, Mary did not bother to offer her condolences. Instead, she spoke about it on an episode of Real Housewives and mocked it, telling the girls, "Guess you should wear a seatbelt." Not exactly the behavior of a typical pastor, although I guess Mary is anything but a typical pastor. What's worse is that, according to Michael's father, Michael, after a GoFundMe was set up to help Michael's children following her passing, Mary told the congregation instead of financially supporting that, they should just be financially supporting the church.
Oh, God.
Another shady move for the supposed woman of God. On Real Housewives, Mary made racist comments regarding Jen Shaw following Jen's arrest. Mary referred to Jen as heartless and a thug, quote, like those Mexican people that make all those drugs.
Oh, boy.
Mary later issued a public apology online, stating she used poor judgment in her choice of words, and her statement was reckless and unintentional. I would almost believe that Mary was genuinely sorry, except for the fact that she followed that apology post with a series of hashtags, including hashtag make it right, hashtag apology, hashtag real housewives, hashtag bravo, and my personal favorite, hashtag apology accepted. You can't,
You can't do that.
just because you apologize doesn't mean people are like automatic acceptance. That's just how it works.
Like
The
you can't
faith
give yourself a nickname, you know what I mean? It's the same
Correct.
thing.
Correct. Well, I don't know. I did pretty good with Snuffles. Um, oh God. So the Faith Temple location in Salt Lake City was closed for 2 years. Mary claimed it was for repairs. The Indianapolis location currently is listed as closed as well. But in 2025, Salt Lake City location reopened. It was seen on season 6 of Real Housewives. While the church was closed, Mary and Robert Sr. sued two executives who handle the business portion of Faith Temple. The Cosbys accused the executives of embezzling millions of dollars from the church over the span of several years. According to the suit, the couple claim the executives misused church funds for personal use and intimidated employees with threats, verbal abuse, racial degradation, and physical abuse. They are seeking 6.3 million in damages.
Wow.
As of this record, that lawsuit is still pending. Mary and Robert Sr. Also claim these executives forged Robert's signature to take out a second mortgage on one of the business properties. I am absolutely fascinated by the fact that Robert was caught forging signatures to take property that didn't belong to him, and then 20 years later, he's claiming someone forged his signature to do the same. Is that what we call karma? Or is Robert Sr. simply taking an old page from his own playbook and trying to make someone else look guilty? Only time will tell. Reporting for True Crime and Housewives, I'm Christy Oxborrow.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, listen, so much to discuss. Let's take a quick break. Quick break. Let's take a quick break, hit the can, grab a drink. We'll be back to discuss The Real Housewives, Mary Cosby on this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. One, two, three. Welcome back to this episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're, of course, discussing Real Housewives, Mary Cosby. I just got to say off the start, people always ask me if I'm a Real Housewives watcher.
Oh, sure.
And I I'm not. I mean I have watched it. Obviously, I watched the early New York season. I watched some of
Obviously.
LA,
I like that.
obviously.
Yeah.
Like when it first came out, you know. And I
Sure.
want to make it clear, I'm not opposed to watching it. There's just so
Sure.
much of it. It gets overwhelming and you go, where do I begin? What
Yeah.
do I need? What's the best one? All of this. Um, for those of you who don't remember, because I've talked about it ad nauseum, I've seen all of Vanderpump Rules and I'm deeply passionate about it. So it's not that it's for lack of want, it's more just overwhelming and there's so much and
Yeah.
all of the above. But all of that to be said, I love that you went through various scandals that have happened in the franchise. Um, and I've known about some of them just through like pop culture news and stuff like
Of
that. But
course.
I do think Mary Cosby's story is wild. And I
Yes.
remember I had watched part of that documentary and like hadn't even finished, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And I texted Christy and I was like, we got to think about this for the show because it is such a wild, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. You just don't, I feel like it's like you don't expect like a real housewife to also be a part-time cult leader. You know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah.
feels,
Or to
it's,
marry her own grandpa.
that's the other detail. That's
Yeah.
the other detail. Um, Now you were talking about Teresa and Joe Judice,
Um,
G-
she said
Giudice.
she said that, I mean, she's Italian, so I think it's supposed to be Giudice.
Right.
But she did say a lot of people just say Judice and she's accepted it.
Well, listen, it's
So,
it's it's irrelevant. I just didn't know. I forgot how it was supposed to be said. You mentioned that they used false documents to get loans, like fake W-2s and pay
yeah.
stubs and whatnot. And I just wanted to share the only time I've ever done fraud, and it was when friend of the podcast Leslie Seiler moved to LA. Um, Disneyland has a Southern California residence pass that you can only get if you live nearby, and it's at a pretty, decent discount. And I already had one, and we wanted to get her hers, but maybe she hadn't moved yet. It may have been that it was like she wasn't moving for another 6 months or something. I think it was that. Anyway, so I said, just give them my address. And then we both were talking about it, and it was like, well, what if you don't have your address isn't on your license? Like you have to prove that you live in Southern California. So
Sure.
it was like, oh, like maybe we just tell them that you just moved and you don't have your license yet. That wasn't going to work. So what did I do? I took a utility bill and I doctored it using Photoshop to take my name off of it and put her name on it. So if they asked, she could say, I just moved here, but here's my most recent water bill or electricity bill or whatever it was. This
Yep.
took me hours. I wanted to make sure it was exact, and I was having to font match. Like it was really pushing my graphic design skills. Long
Hmm.
story short, we walk up to the gate or to the ticket booth, and she's like, "One Southern California resident pass, please." They didn't ask to check anything. They were like, "Absolutely, here you go." So the only reason I can talk about the fraud is because it wasn't fully committed. You know what I mean? It was now, in a court of law,
Yeah.
I guess that's intent to commit fraud, but I'll let the Disney Corporation take that up with me if need be.
Um, I didn't in a million years, think you were gonna say because I committed fraud once. Um, and then if you had told me that that was gonna be said, I never, ever would have guessed the next words out of your mouth were gonna be Disney. And
And
I
to be
can,
clear, I shouldn't be saying I committed fraud. I didn't. I didn't. I may have conspired to commit fraud.
in your heart, you might have. But God, that's what a reason to do it. The fact that they were like, it doesn't matter. I
Oh yeah, they
mean,
did. It was just so
delicious,
funny.
but
I had spent so much time making sure it was good. And I felt wildly guilty, to be clear. I was like, this is not right. This is like I shouldn't be doing this, but it's for the greater good.
yeah,
Just classic.
yeah.
Of
I'm sure
course,
your work was flawless.
thank you so much. I think I got rid of it. I was like, I can't have this blood on my hands. Um,
The fact that there are kids like for the last who knows how many years um in universities faking IDs
yep.
and you're sick about faking a bill to get a discount one time.
Yeah, I
And
know.
she was moving there. She did end up
She
living
was.
there.
She was, and she did live at my address for the first little while. So also, by the way, it's also like a quote fraud of like a handful of months. Like it also wasn't like conspiracy to commit like deep fraud. It was.
Right. Right. I'm
Anyway,
tickled.
God bless.
Just tickled.
Speaking of God bless, Flex, gospel rap artist. I did look him up very quickly on the break to see his 6 albums. I thought, oh, maybe some of this will be interesting to talk about. To be honest, it all looked pretty straightforward. It looked like exactly what you would expect from Flex, gospel rap artist. So I didn't take any further notes. Um, being honest, being honest. Everything about this story is just so fascinating. And when you got into the like family tree of it all, and like this person is this, she is her own step grandmother slash aunt slash sister by marriage. Like it is just
Yeah.
wild. I think, what's interesting is you mentioned that Rosemary passed away in her sleep in 1977. First thing I wrote down was there an autopsy? So I loved later on, I was like freaking out when you mentioned that he didn't allow an autopsy. Um, and listen, I understand that they said it was heart failure. Do I believe she could have been slowly poisoned or something to have that? I do. Obviously I'm speculating here, but it just feels like this has all of the markings of a case that we would hear on this show.
A
So much of it.
hundred
Like
percent.
he's a teen, and on one hand, it's sad and gross because it feels like this older woman groomed this teen. Um, which again, I'm not saying that isn't true. What I'm saying is that therefore he could have been retaliating by having this plan to take her fortune. He could have been, whatever. My point just is that I was like, it just feels like this could have been part of the plan. I mean, if they're willing to like forge, I love that I'm like, if they're willing to forge documents, he could be willing to do a murder. Lauren, you forged a document. You're not willing to do a murder. Hear yourself. Though again, I wasn't trying to transfer the deed of a home.
It is it is a bit of a leap to go. If you're willing to commit one crime, you're willing to commit all crimes. But
Yeah,
I
no,
like
I
the
hear
energy.
myself.
I like
I
the
hear
energy.
myself. I think, let's put it this way then. At very best, they seemed to be waiting for her to pass because if
Mhm.
she they got Mary's divorce papers signed and then literally 19 days later she's married to Robert. Like they were waiting for this. I,
Yeah.
I don't believe that this was something that came up after Rosemary's death. I feel like this was
No.
something that had been in the works for some amount of time. It feels again, to your point, the groomer or the groomie becomes the groomer. Feels like, just a lot happening. A lot happening. And
Yeah.
I don't know, let's put it this way. Do I trust Robert? No,
No.
no, straight up. Um,
Sung by Paula Abdul. If we're bringing in lady singers in this episode.
Straight up now, tell me, do you really want you and me together? Oh,
Ow,
oh,
ow,
oh.
ow.
Such a good song.
Yeah.
Um, okay, Mary and Robert had emergency saints meetings where they trapped people in the church until they gave money. I mean, this is so many crimes, I feel like.
Yeah.
Also, my question about these two is, do you think they go home and laugh? Like sometimes when we hear, because we've talked about, multiple cults on this show over the years, obviously. And there's
Yeah.
times where it feels like a cult leader is very connected to the belief that they are either God themselves or close to God. And like they may be manipulating people and taking people's money, but I never questioned that like Branch Davidian. Like I don't ever question that David Koresh believed. You know what I mean? Like I think he did
Sure.
believe in his own grift, if that makes sense.
Sure.
These people, do we think that they really believe it? Because I'm just getting the impression as we talk about this more, because they're so obsessed with money, i.e., her having that meltdown about her lack of birthday presents, like, do they go home after they manipulate people and get them to give money? And do they just laugh like these fucking dummies? Because that's the vibe that I'm getting based on
Mm.
nothing other than my gut. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like, do they really believe that they're like next in line to God or God? Like, I don't know that they
I
do,
don't I don't think so.
right?
I don't know.
Whereas again, some of the other, I just think, and that I'm not saying one is better than the other at all. I'm just saying I find it interesting because maybe it's like the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I just feel like some other cult leaders, they believe to their core that this is who they are and this is the right thing to do. And they may use that to
Right?
manipulate people. But these two, I'm like, I think they're just trying to again, it's just another business, right? Like they have so many
Oh,
businesses that they've
sure.
inherited and stuff like that. I just don't necessarily buy it.
Oh, yeah. I'm also convinced that the whole suing executives from their businesses is them going, oh, people are noticing that we had a lot of money from the church and they don't know where it went. So I
Right.
feel like they're throwing these people under the bus and being like, see, there was money. They took it, not us.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
But
it's a good point.
it just feels wild that all of a sudden, like it's come out that it's like they think you're a cult. They think you took money from these people. And they're like, well, we didn't take the money. I think it was them. See, they forged documents. And it's like, who's done that before?
Yeah. Yeah, great point. Pot, kettle, black. Um, okay, I just have to say very quickly, Robert asking for the private meetings with Kim at church, at home, asked her to go to Vegas with him. She says no. He says, "Do you love me?" She says, "As my pastor." And then he's like, "Well, you shouldn't be in love with me. That's disrespectful to your husband." That is the most like classic manipulation in the and it's such a what would he have done if she said yes to going to Vegas? Like, did he think this was gonna work out?
Oh, I think he figured he was going to get a fling out of it,
Oh my God.
because God wanted it.
Of course. Well, that makes me think he was probably having other ones.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes me think even more that they're going home and laughing about this. Like, I just don't, I love that I feel like it's like an insult to them that I'm like, if you're gonna be a cult leader, believe in it at least.
Who's going to believe in it and if you don't believe in yourself?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ridiculous. Um, all of the details about Cameron Williams, like how he's saying that Mary took advantage of him. He felt like he couldn't say no, essentially, because he
Yeah.
was worried about going to hell. Then the detail that he ended up helping her get on Housewives and he was on the Housewives. Then the detail that he died. Like, it again, it's like a soap opera, this thing. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. The details about Robert Jr. getting married so young in secret, keeping it hidden, so many arrests, the addiction, and going to prison, getting out, dying. Like, again, it's just like, what chaos.
They have a lot going on.
A lot happening. A lot happening. Um, and then the final thing I have to say is, a church leader instructing the congregation to not give to the GoFundMe that was set up for children who lost their mother in a car accident, and
Mm.
instead saying, give your money to the church. I think, to use their terminology, there is a special place in hell
Yep.
for people like that. And I stand by that.
Yeah, it's pretty dark to
Yes.
say that about anybody, but especially someone from your own church, to shame people for giving to that and be like, well, if you have the money to give, you should be giving it to us. It's like,
It's
to do
just
what with? Get out.
get bent.
Yes.
Um, Listen, Christy Oxborrow, fantastic work as always. This was truly riveting, unbelievable. And does it make me not want to watch The Real Housewives? No. I'm more intrigued than ever.
I love that.
But listen, we thank you for your research. 12 out of 10. Fantastic job.
I'm just jazzed to be here.
Oh, you and me both, baby. And we thank you, dear listeners, for joining us on this wild ride. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at True Crime and Cocktails, on Twitter at Not Detectives. If you'd like some bonus content, go over to patreon.com/True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our subscription-based service over there. And of course, the only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is, of course, TrueCrewMerch.com. So check that out as well if you're interested. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
On the next True Crime and Cocktails, Michael Wayne McGray.
This one is new to me, and I can't wait to learn all about it from my best gal. Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Oh, good night, pop punk Cardi B.
Oh, good night, Snuffles McGraw.